の計画もなく乗り込めるような。
トラオモ、みんなして手組んで本校カイドウをぶっ飛ばす。それが同盟だ。お前らもう二度と頭を下げるな。
A few moments later.
No. Yeah, there are two sides of the story. There's a right and there's a wrong, and you are in the wrong.
No, you don't get it, do you?
Yo, this is Manny from the Four Eyes Academia, and today we'll be talking about chapter 1014, chapter entitled A Lifelong Ham Actor. If you guys don't know, a ham actor is somebody or an actor that is over theatric. In other words, it overreacts all the time. So this chapter will clearly have a focus on Kanjuro later on in the story. So we start chapter 1014 where we left off from 1013 with Kaido defeating Luffy and Luffy falling from Onigashima. Kaido still remains talking to himself and says something along the lines of Gomu Gomu no what? Pretty much just mocking Luffy's technique, telling the guy to get the fuck out of here. Luffy was finally able to caught himself in Conqueror's Haki, but I guess he just wasn't able to apply his technique alongside with it. And he also mentioned something really important while Luffy falls into the sea. Seems like he couldn't be Joy Boy either. So this is a very interesting part of the chapter, because where does Kaido know of Joy Boy? How does Kaido know Joy Boy? How did he come across Joy Boy? And what made you think that Luffy had the potential to be Joy Boy? I know that we had in the previous chapter, I want to say chapter 10-11, when Kaido and Luffy are, I guess, about to have a fight. And then there's the whole thing in regards to the mistranslation from the official One Piece chapter. Quite a lot of complaints in regards to it, where Kaido says something on the lines of, the more the extreme the condition, the more that you smell, the more that you smell, the more that ... So we don't know what Kaido meant by that. What did Kaido mean by the more that you smell? And I'm assuming that whole monologue between Kaido and Luffy is related to Joy Boy. But I guess we don't have enough information in regards to that. And eventually we'll probably find out more about it at some point in Wano. I would think so. Hopefully with a Kaido flashback. So after that, so we get Kaido informing Bohang to tell the rest of Onigashima and everybody that's currently fighting that the fight between Kaido and Luffy is over and Luffy has been defeated. And that Kaido is willing to take you on if you surrender. But before we get to that scene, we get a scene with Yamato going onto the third floor, fighting the fodder, I guess, trying to get to Kaido, not realizing that Kaido's ready to leave the roof. And after that, we get Momo still reading his dad's journal. He comes across something that makes him feel that he has to carry on living. So Oden had written something that may not particularly be for Momo, but it's important enough to make Momo want to think that he needs to carry on living. So there's obviously something that Momo needs to do on the back of him reading Oden's journal. So then we get scenes from the live floor, Chopper versus Queen. While Chopper's fighting Queen, we can see the Chopper is filled up with arrows on his back. Allied forces that fight along Chopper, but they also have arrows on his back. Chopper is clearly out of breath, and Queen mentions it and saying, why is he out of breath for somebody that's supposed to be winning? It seems like Queen is barely hurt from Chopper's attack, which I would expect. I wouldn't expect Chopper to be able to damage a Yonko commander. And in the next panels, we can see where Chopper and the Allied forces have all been getting their arrows from. Perospero, he's making candy arrows to throw at them. We then get a flashback of Chopper and Caesar talking, and Caesar telling Chopper that with his formula, he's able to get him into that beast mode, into the giant mode for even longer. He can transform into the giant mode for 30 minutes. And I guess Chopper listened to him because he's using it for longer than he usually does, usually about 3 minutes, and now he's saying that he's only got 10 minutes left in his form. And then we see Queen attempting to attack Chopper using black coffee. That beam coming out from his mouth that we've seen him use before, a beam that's probably very similar to what we see Frankie use. I know this was talked about before. I think we spoke about on another chapter review before, is that I'm pretty sure the technology that Frankie has used for his beam and the technology that Queen is using for his beam are very similar. And we all know that when Frankie got sent away by Kuma, Frankie got sent somewhere where he was reading Vegapunk's notes. So I'm assuming that that is the same technology, and both beams were created by Vegapunk, or at least the prototype was. So yeah, now we get to the scene where the announcement is being made by all the Marys that Luffy has been defeated by Kaido. And while we get this announcement, we see all the Straw Hats in their individual fights. We see Chopper versus Queen, or we also see Marco saying Straw Hat, Frankie looking a bit surprised, Jinbei while he's fighting Who's Who, and Who's Who is still in his human form. So taking it that the Jinbei and Who's Who's fight hasn't gotten to an extreme, is nowhere near done yet, because Who's Who still hasn't transformed. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, we also get a scene with Law looking shocked, Kid telling Big Mom that he doesn't really care, that's got nothing to do with him, that Luffy is lost. Nami and Usopp holding Tama crying, oh big bro. We get Robin and Brooke while they're fighting Black Maria, and also Sanji and Zoro both shouting or screaming screw that, in regards to the Mary saying that the Kaido's willing to spare their lives if they're willing to surrender, and they'll easily be welcomed into the fold. From these panels, it doesn't seem like the Straw Hats are too bothered. I think they're a bit surprised by the announcement, but in regards to Zoro's and Sanji's reaction to it, I think it's fairly obvious that they still believe that Luffy is still able to fight on and Luffy's not fully defeated. Hence what Kaido said in last chapter holds a little bit more weight, is that nobody would actually believe. They will still have trust in the captain as long as Kaido doesn't bring them his head. As long as they still know that there's a chance of Luffy being alive, they will cling on to that hope. So now we get to the end, towards the end of the chapter, we get Kanjuro eventually making his way to Momonosuke. But before Kanjuro does get to Momonosuke, we have Kinemon and Kiku. They're talking to Momonosuke. Something that I didn't mention earlier is that when Momonosuke was telling Shinobu that he has to live on after reading Oden's journal, he starts to hear the voice of all things again, and there's somebody talking to him, he gets the headache. So this is very similar to what happened with Zunisha back at Zou, when Zunisha was talking to Momo, asking Momo to give him an order. And I guess this is similar with Momo getting a headache. His head's hurting, doesn't understand what's going on, but somebody's talking to him. And then we cut to the scene of Kanjuro disguised as Oden coming up to where Momonosuke and the rest are. Shinobu saying it can't be, Momonosuke saying father, looking hella happy, thinking that it's him. But obviously Kiku and Kinemon already knowing from the past that it is Kanjuro, just disguised as Oden, attempted to attack them. Kinemon tries to cover Momo's eyes while Kiku attempts to attack him. Obviously Kiku said previously to leave Kanjuro to him in order for him to kill him, and he apologized in the previous chapter for not doing it previously. But yeah, as Kiku attempts to attack Kanjuro, she hesitates as Kanjuro, wearing the faces of Oden, brings up past memories, and Kiku is just unable to cut down Oden's face. This leaves Kiku open, and Kanjuro eventually sticks a sword inside him. And then we have Kiku again apologizing, not being able to land the final blow on Kanjuro. And while this is all happening, Kinemon runs towards Kiku, holds him as what it seems that Kiku might be dying. But this being One Piece, and this being Oda, characters that look like they're about to die, characters that are meant to be dying, don't necessarily die in One Piece. So as it stands, I'm not going to go on a limb and saying that Kiku's dead, but he should be, really. But yeah, while Kinemon's holding a dying, well, quote unquote dying Kiku, we have Kanjuro trying to attack Kinemon from behind. And I guess Kinemon just had enough and cuts down Kanjuro. And this is where the tale of the story comes in. We have Kanjuro saying that how fitting it is that it's Kanjuro that ends up killing him or cutting him down, because on the stage throughout his whole life, Kinemon played the part of the best friend. And while you think that the danger is done, Kinemon killing Kanjuro, we then have Kaido. Kaido walks into the area that everybody is. Shinobi takes Momonosuke away while Kinemon attempts to protect them. As Kinemon puts up his two swords, we see Kaido's Mace coming down at him. And in this panel, which was made with such great detail, we see Kinemon's sword split apart, flying away. We see Kaido's mace with the black lightning coming down on Kinemon's head. And one thing that I noticed in that panel is that Kaido's mace is cracked. I don't know how much of a significance that will play into the future, but I do believe that Oda is setting it up as Kaido's mace would eventually be broken, and most likely by Luffy. And I think when that happens, it'll be symbolic. At the time, Luffy breaking Kaido's mace may be equivalent to Luffy finally defeating Kaido. But yeah, in the last two panels, we get Momonosuke screaming Kinemon. Again, Oda being Oda, the potential of Kinemon still being alive is very high. It's very, very high. But yeah, in the final panel of the chapter, we get to see Onigashima approaching Wano's mainland. They have finally arrived at Wano, and obviously you have to go across Wano to eventually get to the flower capital. So that was a really great chapter. So there's a few things that I guess we as fans will be looking forward to in the future, finding out what actually is happening to Luffy. Luffy's in the sea, he's unconscious. Who's going to collect Luffy? Would it be Law Screw with a submarine, similar to what happened on Marineford? Who's going to be able to pick up Luffy? It's not going to be anybody with a devil fruit, so it's not going to be Momonosuke as most people predicted. Possibly unlikely to be Yamato, as most people believe that Yamato's got devil fruit. Could the voices that Momo's currently hearing right now be the voices of Sea Kings? and could they be the ones to rescue Luffy? It'll be interesting to see what happens next. But yeah, it was a great chapter. This will be Manny from the 4 as Academia, and please join our Discord, follow our Twitter, just be there for the discussions. It'll be nice to have you there. Leave a comment on the comment section if you have anything to say about the chapter, if you feel like I missed anything out, or if you just want to talk about the chapter. Also, just a reminder that every Saturday we do live Twitch discussions at 1 p.m. BST over on a Twitch channel for Ice Academia, so be there.